The modding scene is still alive and kicking for Fallout 4, and today we've got some really fun new mods to check out, as well as some entries from new modders. It's always a fun thing to look at as well. As always, I do hope you guys enjoy the entries that we have today, and if you enjoy the video, consider dropping it a like and even a subscription if you haven't done that already. Now then, let's go ahead and jump straight into this video with our first mod, known as the CZ Scorpion EVO 3 Micro Standard by MsValerie. Now, this mod had actually come out quite some time ago, a few months ago in fact, but I never got a chance to cover it because it was taken down by the author for one reason or another. But now it is back and it is Redux, having some new changes as well as some new attachments and different edits that will make this a bit different from the original version. And since I never got to cover the original, now we get to cover this one with even more content. Now, some of you may be familiar with the Scorpion as a very small micro pistol, but this is going to be the Scorpion EVO, a much larger SMG, a bit more modern and tactical, and this mod is definitely going to be a bit more suited for those tactical load orders. This thing's going to include a bunch of cool new modern optics as well as different grips and attachments that make this thing very fun to use, and it has cool custom animations. Overall has really nice AAA quality looks to it, looks very nice in game, and it has some fun integration as well. Now, apparently a big difference between this mod and the original EVO by MsValerie is that this one is going to feature only one version of the Scorpion. Apparently the old one had two different versions, but this one is just going to feature the Micro. So this is a very small SMG. That also means that it's going to be an overall smaller download size, as it's going to remove some of the slightly different models that were available in the other mod. Now it's going to be a lot more streamlined and cut down to just this one version of the weapon, but with even more attachments. This mod does come with an ESL marked ESP, so this will not take up a mod slot in your load order. It also comes in 2K and 4K options. Additionally, this thing does require tactical reload, so if you are a fan of that, it comes built in. But if you're not using tactical reload, there actually is a non-tactical reload version if you want to use that. Like I said earlier, this thing comes with custom animations, and they're all even different depending on what attachments you use, including different equip animations depending on which kind of stocks you have equipped, which is always really cool. Attention to detail like that is super fun, and I do enjoy that quite a bit. If you want to get your hands on this weapon, it is craftable at the chemistry station. Sadly, though, it is not available in the leveled lists. The author says they do not like leveled list integration. It's a pretty weird take. I don't really understand it myself, but it is the mod author's choice to do so. Hopefully we'll see a leveled list patch at some point in the future so that we can actually go and see this thing on enemies and have it integrated into the world. Until then, though, it will be craftable at the chemistry station, which I feel like for some people isn't really that big of a deal, especially if you're already into the modern tactical load order, which is probably what you're going to be using if you're going to be downloading this mod anyways. So if that's the case and you don't mind it, then that's not a big deal whatsoever. Overall, a pretty dang nice weapon. The amount of customization available and how fun the weapon is to use is a really cool option. It's also something that's just a bit different for you tactical modern load orders out there. This is going to be something that you don't really have much of an option for outside of this. There's a million M4 mods, but I don't think there's really anything for the Scorpion. So that's pretty dang cool. If you want something a bit more unique for your load order, this is definitely one I'd recommend checking out. You can check it out using the link down in the description. Every single mod in this video will be linked down there, so if you want to check any of these out, that's where you should look. Now, this next mod is going to be a very stark contrast. We have a mod known as a simple gun mod, the AO46 Compact PDW by Bugle 55. Now, this is Bugle 55's first mod ever, and I have to say, for a first mod, this is not too bad whatsoever. It's going to be a brand new 5.56 pistol. Now, there's not really many 5.56 pistols out there. There's the ones from New Vegas, and then there's my big heavy 5.56 3-round burst pistol. The AO46 PDW is going to be pretty original. Really cool. It does use vanilla animations. Now, to be fair, this is their first mod. That is not something that's terrible. And also, vanilla animations are fine if you use them correctly. And I think that these ones are actually used pretty well. Surprisingly, everything lines up in third person in a way that's very satisfying to me. This thing does have a pretty big profile as well as a fold-out stock that fits right snugly in your shoulder. It actually looks like you're using it as intended, and that makes this mod really cool to me. For a new mod, overall, the model work is not too shabby whatsoever. It has a nice original design and an attempt to make a lore-friendly aesthetic for the weapon. Not to mention, it has a really original idea. Having a 5.56 heavy pistol is super cool, something you don't see super often. So Bugle, I think, has a very promising career ahead of them when it comes to mods. I'd like to see what they do to continue expanding on their skills, getting better and better with each release. To tell the truth, the only things that I would say that need a little bit of work here would probably be some texture work, as some things are a little bit flat and the metals don't look quite right with the rest of the metals in the game, as well as the use of vanilla textures for some of these options that have just kind of been remapped, sort of in a weird way, but that's not that big of a deal. That's something that can easily be fixed over time, and something that could even be reduxed in the future. One other thing that I do have a small little gripe about is going to be the balancing. There's only 2 receivers available, one standard and one full auto, so you can't really scale this weapon, which is a shame. I know that those receivers are tedious to do, but they definitely add a whole lot to having this thing feel like it fits in with the rest of the game. Besides that, though, this thing is pretty dang good. If you want to get your hands on it, it will be crafted at the chemistry station. Again, not that big of a deal. It's a first mod. Level-less integration is something that can be daunting to some people, but it's really not too bad if you grab a hold of Dankraft's scripted injects. You can use those as a template, and they're pretty nice. What's really cool is that this is something that is going to be not quite complete yet, because View55 has already stated that they want to add more to this weapon in the future, including a 545 version of this weapon, so it's not just 556, it'll be a bit more unique. I'm probably assuming that they're going to use munitions or some other form of ammo mod as a requirement. And then they also say that they're going to add new textures and potentially new animations, so I really hope to see updates to this thing. It'd be really cool to see a mod author grow over one mod, and also see what other kind of releases they have in the future. I'm really looking forward to see what they decide to do moving forward. Overall, I really just like to showcase new modders, give them a chance to shine, and really encourage them to continue on with their work, because it's a really, really fun hobby, and it's something that they definitely deserve a little bit of credit for, because modding is not exactly an easy thing to do. Now, the next mod we're checking out is technically a COD port, but it's not the one that you expect. It's not a new weapon. We're checking out Black Ops 6 Frank Woods Classic Bisection. This mod adds the classic Frank Woods outfit from the Call of Duty Black Ops 6 multiplayer. Now, it does so in a couple of interesting ways. For starters, it adds his entire outfit as a really cool, new, lore-friendly outfit. It also adds a new bandana and a couple of masks. And those masks allow you to look exactly like Frank Woods. Your face will be completely swapped out for him, and to be honest, that part is a bit creepy. But the outfit itself is really, really cool. Since this is a throwback in Black Ops 6 to the classic Frank Woods from the Vietnam era, this has some really cool retro-looking gear that fits really well in Fallout. Honestly, this COD port is one of the most lore-friendly COD ports I've ever seen. You're gonna have a bunch of really cool pouches, some really cool, accurate camo pants, as well as a whole bunch of equipment, some retro grenades and smoke grenades, as well as a big knife and radio. All of the stuff that just looks really, really nice in Fallout. A lot of times when it comes to outfit ports, a lot of stuff can get messed up in the process, but everything in this one looks pretty dang good. It actually looks like an outfit that fits well, like it was made for Fallout 4. Now, don't get me wrong, the mask is pretty creepy, and the bandana doesn't fit super well because it's meant to go with that mask. But the outfit itself, if you just take that part, is a pretty cool hero outfit. I think it's something that could fit well for your character if that's something you want. And it's not too recognizable as something ported over from other media. It just looks like a pretty generic military outfit that honestly looks pretty good. If you want to get your hands on any of these pieces of the outfit, they are all craftable at the chemistry station. Seems to be a theme so far. You can get all 3 pieces there. And there's actually 2 different variants of the mask with different skin tones. Not really sure why, but those are things that you can do. If you want to roleplay as Frank Woods, this is definitely an option for you. Or if you just want a nice retro outfit from the Vietnam era, I think this is a really cool thing to add as well. You probably pair this with a handful of mods to get even more variety, and maybe make your own little level-less injection pack if you want all of them to spawn out in the world. Overall, a pretty cool little outfit, something that's nice to see ported from Black Ops 6, a game with a really cool aesthetic featuring stuff that fits pretty well in Fallout in my opinion. Now on to something a bit more traditional. We have a new pistol mod known as the Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0. I say new, but this thing actually came out in 2020, 4 years ago, but I've never seen it, and it features a pretty cool gun that I don't really see recognized much on the modding scene. The M&P series of Smith & Wesson are actually a very common gun IRL, and it's something you would expect to see in the Fallout universe. It doesn't fit 100%, it is a little bit modern, a little bit tactical, but not in the same way that other things are. This is a civilian weapon most of the time, you might see it on police occasionally, so it is something that would be very common. So depending on the aesthetic of your own game, this might fit very, very well, or it might not. It just kind of depends on who you are. But if you are trying to make something a little bit more realistic to the real world, this is a weapon that you would see very, very often. Now, this weapon comes in many different versions. There's the M&P 9, the M&P 40, and the M&P 45. So all of those are going to use 9mm, 40 Smith & Wesson, or 45 Auto. Sadly, most of those ammo types aren't actually featured in Fallout 4, so You can make every single one of those variants of the weapon, but they're all going to have some different ammo types. I believe the 9mm is 38, the 40 Smith & Wesson is going to be 10mm, and the 45 is 45. At least that one gets to stay correct. This weapon does have some fun new attachments, including different slides, optics, barrels, muzzle devices, even some flashlights and lasers, and some different cool extended magazines. There are a couple of other options as well, including different grips, but those aren't actually going to change the aesthetic of the weapon, mostly just the stats. This mod contains over 50 new attachments, which is pretty standard for a bigger rifle, but for pistols, it's actually quite a bit. The pistol slots usually don't have a lot going on, so this mod has quite a bit of stuff cram-packed into it. Like I said earlier, it is available in 3 different calibers, and all of those are going to be different attachment swaps at the weapon's workbench, not actually 3 separate weapons. This weapon is going to be injected into the level list, so once your character reaches level 20, which is quite a bit up there, you will be able to purchase this thing from Procter Teagan, Cricket, Arturo, or even your settlement weapon shops. It will not spawn on NPCs though. The author states that they don't view this as a super lore-friendly weapon, so they don't actually want it to spawn out in the world. That being said, there is an optional file if you would like level-less injection. So it's not in there by default. By default, it is only sold in shops. But if you want level-less injection, you can download an optional file, which will then make it start spawning after level 20 on the Minutemen, Gunners, and even Diamond City Security. This weapon does make use of the vanilla animations, specifically the ones on the Deliverer, which honestly work fine. It's a pistol. Generic pistol animations work perfectly fine for it. The thing also has some really fun iron sight options. You can change those out depending on which barrels you choose, and those are actually really fun. The regular iron sights are great, but there's also some really funny custom ones, like some glow sights that are really trippy to use, but honestly, they work really well, and they're pretty fun. They add some nice flair to the gun that make it feel a bit different. Overall, a pretty nice new pistol mod. I don't want to say generic because that might have a negative connotation to it, but sometimes a really basic pistol mod is something that's nice to have for your game, because there's actually not that many in Fallout 4. Fallout doesn't really have a basic pistol, it's really just the 10mm and pipe pistols. So having something new like this is actually pretty welcome in most people's load orders. Now then, moving on to the last mod of the video, we're checking out the Cyberpunk 2077 Malorian Arms 3516 by LuBuCake. This is actually going to be a port from Cyberpunk, something I didn't know was even possible or allowed. Featuring not only the gun itself, but some cool attachments from other guns in the game, and some custom animations from it as well. A really, really cool thing to see, some cross between these two communities and these two different games. The Cyberpunk Malorian Arms 3516 actually isn't new to the Fallout 4 modding scene. I've seen it quite a few times. Whether they were ports or recreations, I'm not sure, but I definitely have seen them around. This one's going to come feature complete though with a bunch of attachments. It comes in as a unique weapon with a cool little place to find it, and again, those custom animations. Multiple animations, in fact. The original in Cyberpunk has different variations depending on which reload you're using that will be randomly selected. Since that's not really a feature for Fallout, instead you get to choose which of those reloads you like. So this weapon is actually very fancy. It flares a lot in its animations. If you reload this thing, you're going to be spinning it around, maybe doing it real cool. You probably know what this weapon is by now if you've seen any bit of Cyberpunk media. So you're going to get to choose which way you flip the weapon around at the weapon's workbench, which is a pretty interesting attachment option. I was very shocked to see that this thing has proper integration. I assume this would be a craftable at the chemistry station sort of option, but it is not. It is not level-less injected either though, because the author sees this thing as a pretty unique pistol, which is fair because it is a unique pistol in Cyberpunk. This is actually going to be a one-of-a-kind weapon that can be found over at the Institute. Well, not exactly. There is an ex-Institute employee who has their hands on this thing. A little bit of a spoiler for you, you might want to pack a gas mask if you want to find them. Now this weapon does feature the base ported textures and models from Cyberpunk, including, like I said, some attachments from other weapons that have been made to fit this weapon. Which honestly, props to the author for going out of their way to actually make that work. But there's even more than that. There's also some different skins available, including the ability to make this thing chrome, gold, or black, which is pretty cool. I don't think that's available in Cyberpunk. To be fair, I don't have more than 30 hours in that game, so I may not know that myself, but as far as I know, that it might be unique to this mod. Now, the author is actually working on a bunch of other stuff to add to this mod already, so the next update you can expect to see new third-person reload animations on top of the first-person ones. There's going to be an inspect animation, which sounds really, really cool. There's also going to be a flamer melee animation, which is featured in the vanilla game of Cyberpunk as well. So when you bash people with this thing, it's actually going to shoot out fire, which is kind of crazy. There'll also be an addition that will add an ammo swap option, because right now in vanilla, this mod uses 50 cal, which is kind of crazy. Whenever that ammo swap option comes out, it will be the 12.7mm from munitions, which honestly seems like it fits a lot more. That's sort of the 50 cal version of pistol ammo that you might see featured in a Desert Eagle. Additionally, there is going to be a tactical reload support, so you have partial and full reloads, and there is going to be a version for consoles at some point in the future that is currently on hold, but once they get this thing all finished up, they plan on making a simplified version for consoles. Pretty nice for you console users. This mod has patches for tactical reload as well as the casing framework if you're using that. That's one I don't really see featured often, and it is an ESL flag mod, so it will not take up a space in your load order. Altogether, a wonderful mod. Perfectly integrated in my opinion, has a ton of features, a ton of content, and there's even more on the docket to come in the future. Really a masterclass piece of work. So really good job by LuBuCake. Now, this does appear to be LuBuCake's first weapon mod ever. While they didn't make the assets themselves, that's perfectly fine. A lot of authors don't make their own assets. Not every single person is making those things from scratch. What I really commend is their attention to detail and their wonderful integration. That is something that makes a great mod author. Somebody who takes the time to make sure that the mod feels like it fits in the world and has a lot of time and care put into the balancing and the different features available. Whether you're making your own assets or not, that is definitely something that is a huge plus in my book. Making sure that the mod actually feels right in the game is a huge part of it. So, congratulations LuBuCake, this is a really, really good mod, and I can't wait to see what else you do in the future, whether it's updates to this one or new mods in general. With that though, we've been talking quite a bit. Let's go ahead and start wrapping things up. We have a lot of cool mods to check out. Like I said, if you want to check out any of them, they will all be linked down in the description below. Additionally, while you're down there, if you want to support my work directly, whether it's the videos I make here on YouTube or the mods I make on the Nexus, you can do so using the link down in the description to check me out over on Patreon. It is completely optional, of course. By no means do you need to feel like you need to, but it is the best way to support me directly if you'd like to. With that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace!